The text message arrived at 8:42 a.m. on a Tuesday, right as I was reviewing the quarterly reports for Premium Auto Group, the dealership chain I'd built from a single struggling lot into a $340 million automotive empire spanning 12 locations across 3 states. We're taking your car tomorrow. You can't afford the payments and we're tired of watching you destroy your credit. That. I stared at the message, sitting in my corner office overlooking the flagship Premium Auto dealership in downtown Austin. Through my floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see rows of luxury vehicles gleaming in the morning sun. BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, Lexus models, all part of the inventory I owned. The car Dad was referring to was a modest Honda Accord I'd purchased from one of my own dealerships 6 months ago. Not because I couldn't afford something more expensive. I owned a collection of luxury vehicles that would make most people's jaws drop. But because I preferred to drive something practical and reliable for my daily commute. My family assumed I was struggling financially because I lived modestly and drove a sensible car. They had no idea that their struggling daughter actually owned the entire automotive retail empire they'd been purchasing from for the past 3 years. I typed back, "Come get it." Then I picked up my phone and called Marcus Rivera, the general manager of our Honda dealership where I'd purchased the Accord. "Marcus, it's Emma. My father is going to come in today trying to repossess a Honda Accord that's registered under my name. I want you to handle this personally." "Boss, is everything okay?" "It's about to be. I'll explain later. Just remember, no vehicles for the Thompson family. Ever." "Understood. Should I expect drama?" "Definitely." For 3 years, I'd maintained the carefully constructed illusion that Emma Thompson was a struggling young woman trying to make it in the automotive business. My family believed I was working as a sales associate at various car dealerships, barely making enough to cover my basic expenses. The truth was far more complex. At 26, I'd inherited $2.3 million from my grandmother's estate. Money my family knew nothing about because Grandma had been quietly disappointed in their materialistic values and left everything to me with strict instructions to use it wisely. Instead of buying a house or taking vacations or living lavishly, I'd used that inheritance to purchase my first struggling dealership. Then I'd worked 80-hour weeks learning every aspect of the automotive business: sales, financing, service, parts, inventory management, customer relations. Within 18 months, I'd turned that single failing dealership into a profitable operation. Within 3 years, I'd acquired 11 more locations and built Premium Auto Group into one of the most successful automotive retail chains in the region. My family had no idea. They saw me driving modest cars, living in a simple apartment and working at various dealerships when I mentioned work at all. They assumed I was job hopping because I couldn't hold down steady employment. In reality, I was visiting my various locations, overseeing operations and building an empire they couldn't imagine. The irony was that they'd been purchasing vehicles from my dealerships for years without knowing it. Dad had bought his BMW from my luxury lot in Round Rock. Mom had purchased her Mercedes from my flagship location. My brother Jake had financed his truck through our commercial division. They'd literally been making my business more profitable while simultaneously lecturing me about my poor financial decisions. Today that was all going to change. At 11:15 a.m. my assistant buzzed my office. "Emma, Marcus is calling from the Honda dealership. He says your father is there. Put him through." "Boss," Marcus's voice came through with barely contained amusement, "your dad is here with some kind of repo paperwork. He's demanding to take possession of the Honda Accord, but when I explained that our owner has specifically blacklisted the Thompson family from all transactions, he got very confused." "What did he say?" "He said that was impossible because his daughter Emma works here and couldn't possibly have any influence over ownership decisions. He also said I obviously don't understand the situation because you're just a low-level employee who can't make her car payments." I smiled despite myself. "And how did you respond?" I told him that Emma Thompson is the founder and CEO of Premium Auto Group, and that she specifically instructed me to refuse all service to the Thompson family effective immediately. "How's he taking that news?" "Not well. He's demanding to speak to the real owner, because he thinks I'm lying to protect you." "Want me to conference him in?" "Absolutely." A moment later, Dad's voice came through the speaker, tight with frustration and disbelief. "Emma, what kind of game are you playing here? This manager is telling me some ridiculous story about you owning car dealerships. Stop messing around and tell him to release your car so we can get it repossessed properly. Dad, Marcus isn't lying. I do own Premium Auto Group. All 12 locations including the one where you're currently standing. The silence stretched so long I wondered if the call had dropped. That's impossible, he said finally. You work in car sales. You can barely afford your rent. You drive economy cars because you can't afford anything better. I drive economy cars because I prefer them for daily transportation. I live modestly because I reinvest most of my profits back into business expansion. And I work in car sales because I own car dealerships. Emma, this isn't funny. Stop lying and tell this manager to give me your car. Dad, pull up Premium Auto Group's website on your phone. Go to the leadership page. I waited while he presumably followed my instructions. Holy shit, he whispered. The website displayed my professional headshot alongside my bio. Emma Thompson, founder and CEO. Under Ms. Thompson's leadership, Premium Auto Group has grown from a single location to a 12-dealership chain with annual revenues exceeding $340 million. Ms. Thompson was recently named Automotive News Rising Star and Texas Business Journal's Young Entrepreneur of the Year. This can't be real. Dad, look around the dealership. Look at the Premium Auto Group logos. Look at the awards on the walls. Look at the business license displayed by the entrance. My name is on all of them. But how? You've never mentioned owning businesses. You've never said anything about being successful. Because every time I tried to talk about my work, you interrupted to lecture me about getting a real job and being more financially responsible. It was easier to let you believe what you wanted to believe than to constantly defend my choices. Marcus's voice cut in. Mr. Thompson, would you like me to show you the security footage from the past 3 years? Your daughter has been here almost weekly, conducting business meetings and overseeing operations. Security footage? Yes, sir. Ms. Thompson has been actively managing this location since she acquired it 18 months ago. She's also been present for all major inventory decisions, staff meetings and performance reviews. I could hear Dad's breathing getting heavier as he processed this information. Emma, if you really own all these dealerships, why didn't you tell us? Why let us think you were struggling? Because I wanted to see if you'd support me when you thought I had nothing to offer. I wanted to know if your love was conditional on my success. That's ridiculous. We've always supported you. Have you? When's the last time you asked about my goals instead of criticizing my choices? When's the last time you showed interest in my work instead of offering unsolicited advice about what I should be doing differently? Another long silence. But the car, Emma. You can't make the payments. We've seen your bank statements. Dad, you've seen the bank statements for one checking account that I use for personal expenses. You've never seen the business accounts that generate over $340 million annually. $340 million? Last fiscal year, yes. This year we're projected to exceed $400 million. I heard him sit down heavily in what I assumed was one of our customer chairs. Marcus, I continued, please explain to my father our current policy regarding the Thompson family. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Thompson, effective immediately, no member of the Thompson family is authorized to purchase, lease, finance, or service any vehicle through any Premium Auto Group location. This includes new car sales, used car sales, parts, service, financing, and warranty work. You're blacklisting your own family? Dad's voice cracked. I'm establishing boundaries with people who think so little of me that they try to repossess my property based on assumptions about my financial situation. Emma, we were trying to help you. We thought you were in financial trouble. Did you ask if I was in financial trouble? Did you inquire about my situation before deciding to take my car? Did you consider that there might be information you didn't have? But we could see you were struggling. You could see that I lived modestly and drove a practical car. You assumed that meant I was struggling because you can't imagine choosing simplicity over ostentation. My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Emma, Channel 7 News is here for your 1 p.m. interview about the Business Journal Award. Tell them I'll be right there. What interview? Dad asked. I'm being interviewed about receiving Young Entrepreneur of the Year. The reporter wants to discuss how I built Premium Auto Group and my plans for future expansion. You're being interviewed by the news? Business News, yes. This is the third interview I've done this month. Forbes wants to feature Premium Auto Group in their upcoming issue about successful women-owned businesses. I could hear Dad's breathing getting shallower as the reality of my success continued to sink in. Marcus, I need to go handle this interview. Please continue helping my father understand our family policy. Absolutely, boss. Mr. Thompson, would you like me to explain the full scope of Premium Auto Group's operations while Ms. Thompson handles her media obligations? I left Dad at the dealership to process his revelation while I conducted my interview with Channel 7. The reporter was interested in my business philosophy, my expansion plans, and my thoughts on being a young woman in the traditionally male-dominated automotive industry. What drives your success? She asked. The determination to prove that assumptions about people are often wrong. Success isn't always visible from the outside, and potential isn't always recognized by the people closest to you. Can you elaborate on that? I've learned that some people are more comfortable with your failure than your success. They'll offer help and advice when they think you're struggling, but they can't handle discovering that you didn't need their help at all. After the interview, I returned to my office to find 17 missed calls from various family members. Dad had apparently shared his discovery with the rest of the family, and now everyone wanted to talk. I called Mom first. Emma, is it true? Do you really own car dealerships? 12 of them, yes. But why didn't you tell us? We've been worried about you for years, thinking you couldn't find stable work. Because you were more comfortable worrying about me than asking about me. It was easier for you to assume I was struggling than to consider that I might be succeeding. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my business goals? When's the last time any of you showed interest in my achievements instead of my supposed failures? Mom was quiet for a moment. We just wanted to help. You wanted to fix me. There's a difference. My brother Jake called next, his voice mixing shock with what sounded like hurt. Emma, Dad told me about the dealerships. Is it true that we can't buy cars from you anymore? It's true. But I've been planning to trade in my truck for something newer. I was going to come to Premium Auto next week. You probably should have thought about that before supporting Dad's plan to repossess my car. I didn't know you owned the dealerships. If you had known what? You would have treated me differently? You would have shown more respect for my choices. Well, yeah. Obviously. Jake, do you understand what's wrong with that statement? He was quiet for a long moment. I should have treated you with respect regardless of how much money you have. Exactly. My sister Amy was the most direct in her approach. Emma, this is ridiculous. You can't cut off the whole family from your businesses just because Dad made a mistake about your car. It wasn't a mistake, Amy. It was an assumption based on years of dismissing my capabilities and judging my choices. But we're family. Family should support each other's businesses. Family should support each other, period. Not just when it's financially beneficial. So what do we have to do to get back on your good side? This isn't about getting on my good side. It's about recognizing that I'm a successful adult who doesn't need your management or your rescue attempts. The conversation that mattered most came that evening when Dad showed up at my apartment. He looked exhausted and older than I remembered, like the day's revelations had aged him years. Emma, can we talk? I let him in and we sat at my kitchen table. The same table where he'd lectured me countless times about being more responsible with money. I spent the afternoon at your dealership, he said. Marcus gave me a tour of the facilities, showed me the business licenses, explained your expansion timeline. He also showed me the customer satisfaction awards, the community service recognition, and the employee appreciation programs you've implemented. I waited for him to continue. I also called the Better Business Bureau, the local Chamber of Commerce, and the Automotive Industry Association. Everyone knows Premium Auto Group. Everyone knows your reputation for fair dealing and community involvement. And I realized that while I've been thinking of you as my struggling daughter who needs guidance, the rest of the world sees you as a successful entrepreneur who's building something impressive. How does that make you feel? Ashamed, proud, confused, impressed. A little intimidated, honestly. Intimidated. Emma, you've built something I could never build. You've achieved success I never imagined you were capable of. And you did it while I was treating you like you didn't know how to manage your own life. I felt some of the anger I'd been carrying start to dissolve. Dad, I never needed you to think I was incapable. I just needed you to believe in me. I thought I was believing in you. I thought offering advice and trying to help was showing support. Advice and help are wonderful when they're requested. When they're forced on someone who doesn't need them, they become criticism and control. Dad looked around my apartment. The simple, comfortable space I'd chosen because it met my needs perfectly, not because I couldn't afford better. Why do you live here? If you're worth, how much are you worth, Emma? The business is valued at about $75 million. My personal net worth is around $23 million. He stared at me like I'd said I was from Mars. $23 million. Give or take. And you live in a one-bedroom apartment and drive a Honda Accord. Because I like simplicity. Because I'd rather invest money in business growth than personal luxury. Because I don't need expensive things to feel successful. But people will think. People will think what? That I'm not successful because I don't display my wealth? Dad, the people whose opinions matter know exactly how successful I am. Their respect isn't based on my car or my apartment. We sat in silence for several minutes while he processed this concept. Emma, what do I need to do to fix this? How do I repair our relationship after everything I got wrong? Start by seeing me as I actually am instead of as you think I should be. Stop offering unsolicited advice about my life choices. Ask questions instead of making assumptions. And the dealership ban? That depends on whether you can learn to treat me with the respect you'd show any other successful business owner. What if I can't afford to buy cars at full price? What if I need family discounts? I smiled at this question because it revealed so much about his mindset. Dad, you've been buying cars from my dealerships for 3 years at full price without knowing it. You've never needed family discounts before. But now that I know. Now that you know, you think you deserve special treatment because we're related? He had the grace to look embarrassed. When you put it that way, it sounds pretty entitled. Because it is entitled. The family discount you'll get is the same fair prices and excellent service I provide to all my customers. If you want more than that, you'll need to earn it by being the kind of family member who deserves it. Over the next few weeks, my family went through various stages of processing my revelation. Mom called regularly, asking questions about my business and expressing amazement at my success. Jake started following Premium Auto Group on social media and sharing articles about my awards and recognition. Amy visited one of my dealerships just to see it for herself. Dad took a different approach. He enrolled in a business course at the local community college, explaining that he wanted to understand what I'd accomplished and learn about entrepreneurship. I realized I don't actually know anything about building a business, he told me. I've spent 30 years working for other people and I never appreciated how difficult it is to create something from nothing. The breakthrough came 2 months later when Dad called to ask if he could bring his car to my service department. Not for free, he clarified quickly. I want to pay full price. I just want to support your business and see how you treat customers. I approved the appointment, and Dad spent 3 hours at the dealership, observing our customer service processes and talking to our staff about their experiences working for Premium Auto Group. Your employees love working here, he told me afterward. The service manager said you've created the best working environment he's experienced in 20 years in the automotive industry. Happy employees provide better customer service. I never thought about it that way. I always assumed employees were just grateful to have jobs. Dad, that's exactly the kind of thinking that creates unsuccessful businesses. 6 months after the car repossession incident, we had our first real family dinner in years. Not at a restaurant but at my apartment with food I'd cooked and conversation that focused on my actual life rather than their assumptions about my problems. Emma, Mom said as we cleared the dishes, I owe you an apology. We all do. We spent years treating you like you needed our management instead of recognizing that you were building something amazing. We were so focused on what we thought you should be doing that we never bothered to learn what you were actually doing, Jake added. Dad nodded. I've been thinking about that day at the dealership. About how shocked I was to discover your success. And I realized the shock wasn't because you'd achieved something impressive. It was because I'd completely misjudged your capabilities. What matters now is what you do with that realization, I said. We want to do better, Amy said. We want to be the kind of family that celebrates your success instead of missing it entirely. And we want to earn back the privilege of being connected to your businesses, Dad added. Not for discounts or special treatment, but because we want to support what you've built. I looked around the table at my family, people who had spent years underestimating me, who had tried to repossess my car based on assumptions about my financial situation, who had finally learned to see me as the successful entrepreneur I'd always been. The dealership ban is lifted, I said. But the family discount is respect, not money. You'll pay fair prices and receive excellent service, just like every other customer. Fair enough, Dad said. Though I have to ask, can you help me pick out my next car? I want something that shows I'm proud to be your father. I smiled. Dad, I'd be happy to help. But remember, the car doesn't make you proud of me. Understanding who I really am should make you proud of me. It does, he said simply. It really does. As they prepared to leave that evening, Dad pulled me aside. Emma, I have one more question. What's that? The Honda Accord I tried to repossess. Do you still have it? Yes. Good. Because now that I know you could afford any car you wanted, the fact that you chose something practical and reliable tells me everything I need to know about your character. Which is that my daughter is not only successful in business but wise in life. And that's worth more than any luxury car. I watched my family leave that night, thinking about how dramatically our relationships had changed since Dad's text about taking my car. His attempt to repossess my Honda had accidentally revealed the full scope of my success and forced all of us to confront years of wrong assumptions. But more importantly, it had taught my family that success isn't always visible from the outside, that capability can't be judged by appearances, and that respect should be given based on character rather than circumstances. The modest Honda Accord still sat in my parking garage, next to the Tesla Model S I drove for client meetings and the vintage Porsche I took out on weekends. I kept all three cars because they served different purposes in my life. But I'd always have a soft spot for that Honda. It was the car that taught my family to see me for who I really was, rather than who they thought I should be. Some lessons, it turned out, came with a very reasonable monthly payment,